All right, today we're going to talk about something kind of powerful. It's this idea about the hidden impact of our everyday choices. It's called the consumption aspiration loop. We're going to break down what that means and look at a whole new way to think about how it affects, well, everything around us. So yeah, let's just dive right in.
So let's just kick things off with a pretty provocative question. And this comes straight from the source material. Are your choices, the ones you make every single day, are they driving your child into this endless loop of consumption and aspiration? I mean, that's a tough one to think about, right? But it's really at the core of what we're digging into here. Okay, so what is this loop exactly? Well, think of it like this. It's basically a cycle that's been created to make sure we keep running on a hamster wheel, just endlessly chasing consumer goals, always wanting the next thing, the new phone, the bigger house, whatever it is. It's a system of never-ending goals that, honestly, can just leave you feeling totally drained.
And look, this isn't just about us feeling tired or unfulfilled. The real kicker here is that this constant chase, this whole self-destructive loop, it has a massive cost for the world around us. It's actually fueling a system that leads straight to cruelty and the destruction of our ecosystem.
But what if there was a better way to think about this? A more systematic way to understand the problem? I mean, think about it. We already do this for other kinds of environmental impacts. We have these super established systems that companies and people use all the time to track their footprint.
Yeah, like with carbon emissions, right? We are so meticulous about tracking them. We break them down into Scope 1, which is direct emissions. Then there's Scope 2 for the energy we buy. And Scope 3, that's for pretty much everything else, all the other indirect stuff. It's this super detailed system that everyone uses to see the whole picture. And that brings us to the big question here. If we can get that detailed and structured about carbon, why in the world aren't we applying that same level of focus to the cruelty our consumption causes? The harm to ecosystems and all the animals living in them.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The idea is to basically reframe how we think about cruelty using a very similar structure. 3 scopes. It gives us a brand new lens to see our full impact. Let's take a look at how it works.
Okay, so here it is, the new framework. And it lines up perfectly, right? Just like with emissions, we can now categorize cruelty. Scope 1 is that direct stuff, actually cutting down a tree. Scope 2, well, that's what happens next, displacing the animals that call that tree home. And then there's Scope 3, the indirect part that's fueled by our choices, like buying a product from the company that cut down the forest in the first place. This is a really powerful way to look at things, but to really grasp it, we've got to look at each scope a little closer. So let's break them down one by one.
All right, so we've got our 3 scopes: direct destruction, displacing the voiceless, and the big one, indirect impact.
So, first up, Scope 1. This is the stuff you can see, right? It's the most obvious kind of harm. It's the actual physical act of destruction, chopping down trees, filling in a lake, or, straight up dumping waste and polluting.
Then you have Scope 2. And this is the immediate consequence of Scope 1, and it's often just heartbreaking. When a habitat is destroyed, all the voiceless creatures that relied on it, they're displaced. It's that first devastating ripple effect from the initial act.
And that brings us to Scope 3. This is where it all comes home to us. It shows exactly where we fit into this picture and how that whole consumption loop is powering Scopes 1 and 2. This is the cruelty we're part of every time we buy something, like food that was grown on land that used to be a rainforest, or a house that was built on what was once a wetland. So the really crucial thing to get here is that this whole framework, it's not about making you feel guilty. Not at all. It's about giving you clarity. It helps us see past just the obvious stuff and understand the entire chain of impact, from that first tree being cut down all the way to the items sitting in our shopping cart. That's the loop in action. And that brings us right back to the beginning, doesn't it? Once you understand your full impact using these 3 scopes, well, that's the first real step to breaking free of that self-destructive loop. It's what empowers you to make choices that lead to a healthier life for you and for the planet. And if you think about it, if we really want to help our kids succeed in life, maybe a huge part of that is teaching them how to see this loop and how to stay out of it. It's about redefining what success even looks like, so it's not just about more stuff. Ultimately, it really just boils down to this: taking a hard look at our own choices. What are we buying? What do we truly value? And what kind of impact are those choices having, not just on the planet, but on the values we're passing on to our kids?
So, I'm going to leave you with one final thought to carry with you. The next time you're about to buy something, anything, just pause for a second and ask yourself, using this new framework,
What's the Scope 3 cruelty of this purchase? What's the invisible story behind it? It's a powerful question, and who knows? It might just change how you see everything. Thanks for tuning in.